first. Yeah. We good?
Yeah, I think so.
Welcome back to everybody who's been here before. I think we're doing something good when our prior panelists have come back twice in a row. If you haven't seen New York, Mathias, New York State Adult Use Licensing Series, Cannabis Licensing Series Part 1, it's on YouTube. Security and Staffing with Mario Rodriguez, who I don't know if you can see, and Lauren Lewis. Hello, thanks for coming back.
Hi.
We also have Part 2 online, in case you haven't seen it. It was Real Estate, Zoning, and Environmental with Brad Termini from Zephyr, Ben Siegel from Wendell, Caper from Kessler Cannabis Group, and our very own Ryan Stearns. And then here we are today for Part 3, talking about the best title we've put out so far because it's most specific: maximizing visibility and consumer engagement through cannabis compliant marketing and data analytics. I am certainly not the expert, but that's why we have 3 experts on the panel today to talk about this, who I'm going to introduce to you now. Thanks to everybody who is online. Thanks to everybody who's here in person. For those of you online, if you are in the Western New York area or ever want to come to Buffalo, we have a pretty cool networking thing that we do after this, where we talk cannabis, we talk about the stuff that we talked during the presentation, and we talk about everything else that we want to talk about, because it's a big, happy family and good community. So without further ado, I'm just going to do some intros, going in order to my right. So to my immediate right, I've got Tyler Shaw from Range Marketing. Tyler is a business development manager. Oh, let's try again. Tyler Shaw. Tyler has been a business development manager at Range Marketing for 4 years now. He manages the onboarding and account management of dispensaries across the emerging cannabis markets of the East Coast, as well as the Pacific Northwest. And one of Tyler's biggest passions in life is giving back to the local Buffalo community. To Tyler's right, we have Emily Tuttle from Spring Bay. Emily is a dedicated cannabis professional who has been in the space for about 4 years. She has experience in both the ancillary and tech sides of the cannabis industry. She's been with Springbig for almost 2 years, working the emerging markets territory for the retail team. She works with both established and prospective cannabis businesses and business owners to get their marketing tech stack aligned. Sounds pretty important. And to Emily's immediate right, and on our 90-inch screen, and also on Zoom screens around the world, we've got Tyler Cracky. Tyler is the director of business development at Headset, where he has been for 3.5 years, focusing on strategic partnerships to grow Headset data assets, as well as enhance the product offerings. While the headquarters for Headset is in Seattle, Tyler is based out of New York City, and I believe he has US Open tickets in the next couple of weeks here. So Tyler, we're going to talk a lot about data, but I want to make sure I say it correctly. Do you say data or you say data?
I'm a data guy, but
Okay.
it's mixed.
All right. So he's not going to get mad at me if I say data.
I think
And regardless, or I guess in addition to these 3 very qualified folks who know a lot more about this than I do, my name is Joe Schaefer. If you don't already know me, I am an attorney here at Lippis Mathias, member of our corporate and cannabis practice teams. I focus in mergers and acquisitions, securities, but obviously more importantly for today, I've been in cannabis since the hemp industry kind of started to blow up in New York in 2019. I'm a recovering litigator. Now I've moved over to the corporate side, helping build businesses and get people ready. And most recently, I've been working on a lot of applications and getting, the businesses and clients we work with ready for application season, if and whenever that happens. For the permanent market, we're doing it in conditional right now as best as we can. So recognizing what I don't know in my blind spots, especially on a marketing focused presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler, Emily, and Tyler. I'm going to start with Tyler Shaw to just talk a little bit about who and what Range, Springbig, and Headset are and how they serve the cannabis industry. And then we're going to kind of go about how these businesses help other cannabis related businesses from before licensing and the application process all the way through to being the $100 million brands that you guys soon will become. So Tyler, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. And before I start off, I just want to give a little love to Buffalo. I've been traveling around the country the last 4 years, and it's finally nice to come home and be able to, give all the knowledge that I've learned and present to my hometown. And Range Marketing, we're based in Buffalo, been working in the cannabis industry predominantly with dispensaries for the last 9 years. Not many people in Buffalo know that, so I kind of wanted to toot our own horn there. And we've been working with dispensaries from the West Coast to the East Coast. And I'm going to keep it really high level because we're going to go a little deeper into this. But what Range Marketing does is help dispensaries get found on the internet. And what I mean by that is, how many times do you go on your phone and you type in, dispensary near me, right? Our whole goal at Range Marketing is to get these dispensaries found on Google. Because when you're ranking on the first page of Google, you're getting website clicks, you're getting phone calls, you're getting requests for directions, you're getting online orders, which is helping these dispensaries increase revenue. And how we do that is through two things. First off, we build these beautiful websites, which I wish I could show up here, but I'll send some examples later. They're beautiful. So it all starts with the website, and then how you get ranked on the internet is through a thing called SEO. And I just want to show of hands, does anyone know what SEO stands for? Oh, it's a pretty good room. For the people that don't understand or not know what the acronym stands for, it's search engine optimization. So yes, Range Marketing is a marketing firm. We're very hyper niche, and we've been working with dispensaries for a long time, so we know the ins and outs and how it works. And I'm looking really forward to later showing you more. But again, website, SEO, driving quality leads to dispensaries is really our wheelhouse. So I'll hand it over to Emily.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you again so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. So Spring Bake has been around since 2017. We are based out of Boca Raton, Florida. As aforementioned, my focus is in the emerging market states specifically, who are just coming online with medical or recreational programs. Overall, we're a cannabis specific marketing CRM. We begin and end there in the cannabis space. And we're now actually branching out a little bit more into be able to service the CBD side of the industry as well, given some of the tightening of regulations that has happened in that space lately as well. We do everything from text and email marketing to referral programs, reputation management programs. Everything is fueled by our integrations within the point of sales and e-commerce companies that you guys are going to select for your dispensaries and brands. And additionally, one of our newer features is we have the ability to build a custom native app, which is a very unique feature in the industry at the moment as well. And I'm very much looking forward to kind of diving in a little bit more with you guys on the importance of not only having a marketing plan in place before your doors are open, but selecting the right providers that all speak with one another in order to ensure success. And with that, I will turn it over to Tyler from Headset.
Thank you, Emily. Good to meet everyone. Sorry I can't see everyone, but clearly you can see me as I hear. I'm sorry I couldn't make it either. I wish I could have. Had some traveling engagements, but the beauty of Zoom these days, I guess you could be anywhere you want, from anywhere. So yeah, I'm Tyler from Headset. I've been there for about 3.5 years at this point. I think I want to start with just the beginnings of Headset because I think it comes from an interesting place. It was co-founded by the same team that founded Leafly back in 2016. And I just say this because it's relevant because while these folks were working at Leafly, they identified an issue with all the operators they were working with, and that was just consistent data and the lacking of reliable data and analytics tools to service these operators in the space. So come along Headset, fits the docket, took some time to build it, of course. But Headset really starts with a few products. I think at first and foremost, it's retailer focused, right? We work with retailers, similarly to what Emily explained in Spring Bake's lens of integrating with their point of sale service. And we really take that data from your point of sale. And our goal is to supplement that service and bring the data to life. So easy to use tools, visualizations, so you could really understand how your business is doing and how you can leverage that data to optimize your business operations. I think from there, the next important part is we actually surface market level data from all the retailers we work with. I'll probably get more into this later, but ultimately what we're doing is we have all these retailer transactions and we're able to aggregate, anonymize. There's a lengthy cleansing process that I could go into detail on. But from that, we're able to create these market insights products, which at its core basic level are just hey, how does the state of Colorado compare to the state of California, compare to provinces in Canada? When I say compare, that's down to the SKU level, but it's brand comparisons, categories, what people are buying, the demographics of those people, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you guys can start to see how this all ties together nicely with what Range and Spring Big do. Great partners of ours. Looking forward to continuing the partnerships and excited to talk more.
Sounds good. Also note Tyler's headset branded polo, which is pretty solid. We're good.
I appreciate that call out. I appreciate that call out.
Yeah.
I actually took a plane this morning and I wore it on the plane. It's that dedicated.
There you go. Good work.
I did not get the polo memo today.
We're going off.
So, and just, I think to add kind of to talk about Tyler's company, but I feel like every time I look, there's another headset study out. I feel like every time there's a new entrepreneur or MJ Biz or, one of these headsets seems to be, at least as I'm seeing it, Tyler, I'm talking your book. So if I'm wrong, please, cut me off. But I feel like headsets in the news more and more just on these data analytics and, it's, I guess, Moneyball meets the cannabis industry. If I can,
Great analogy.
be so bold. So, all right, well, let's dive into it because obviously you guys get to talk about yourselves. So let's talk to the people online and in the room. What we're going to do is just so you guys have a roadmap for today. Now we know who we are and what we're doing. Hopefully we know who we are as much as we can. That's a little existential, but, but we're going to go through the life of a cannabis business from pre-application to post-application, early stage to, like we talked about, getting to that $100 million sales to the big guys in private. So building the business, application stage, you don't have a license yet, obviously, because we're New York State focused today. So Tyler at Range, the importance of website design, what to include, what are you seeing? How are you helping? What are some blind spots that you're seeing for businesses? What are you guys doing to make this process easier? And then, Emily, I'll come to you and Tyler afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this goes along, I'm doing a lot of work in New Jersey right now. And what they're all doing is they're getting waited to go. Well, they went through the application process, but what I found really different with New Jersey is that everyone, I think, is just learning, year by year, month by month, day by day of what to do and what not to do. And I talked to so many dispensary owners that didn't get a license yet, but were putting together their Canna or their Canna tech stack, and which was really amazing to me because we were talking earlier. I like to call this like phase 4, the tech side of things. Like, all right, I got my building, I'm gonna be fully integrated, got the cultivation, but then it's like, oh, I forgot about marketing, POS, data analytics. And what I've had a lot of success with as people are going for their application is talking to them and educating them about marketing and what can you do and what's compliant. And where we found, success as they're going through these application processes. Hey, I'm going to work with Range Marketing, and this is how Range Marketing is going to help build my business over time. This is how they're going to help me increase revenue. They're going to build me this, like I talked earlier, build this beautiful website, and then we're going to start this, search engine optimization plan, and it's going to help drive people into their business. For example, if you have a dispensary up in Niagara Falls you're planning for, when you're on the application side, how are you going to get people to that store? Well, I'm going to do SEO, and this is how I'm going to attract tourism. It just looks that much better when you're going on the application process that when people are looking at this to give you the approval, they're like, they have a business plan in mind, and it just makes you look that much stronger and fight for your case of why you should get awarded a license. So it's the little things like, a website. Yeah, why do I need one of those? But putting that onto the business application is a big part. And especially as you hear from Tyler and Emily here too, having that tech stack in hand really just makes you look that much stronger of a candidate. So that's what we're doing.
And we're seeing that at least on the conditional cultivation, conditional processing applications. For those who haven't seen that, we're seeing prompts on the application. Do you have a website? If so, link to it. We expect to see what's your business plan, what's your marketing plan. So even if it's not specifically prompted on the application, there's ways to tell the story. There's ways to talk about how you're going to show that your cannabis business is a little bit better than the other cannabis business that you're buying against, and how you are going to, in the end, the MRTA does two things, and you guys will hear me say this over and over again. It's a social equity bill and it's a tax bill. We need to show people, we need to show the state how we're gonna make money for the state if you are going to be an applicant. And if you have your, your ducks in a row, obviously a big part of that is the website. Based on what these guys are gonna talk about even more today, if you have your digital side of things down, it's just gonna be that much stronger of an application. So
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that. Emily, anything to add? I know that Spring Big's a little bit different,
Yeah.
but jumping off that point.
Definitely, yeah. So I think one of the most important things first and foremost is that you're picking a cannabis specific tech stack. I think a lot of people in other flows of industries assume that it just kind of works the same way given whatever business space you're in. But when it comes to cannabis, it really truly has to be cannabis specific. And that's important for a couple of reasons, for compliance. And also the second, like one of the first things I talk about with early retailers is the importance of having that tech stack speak to one another. Like all of the different components speaking to one another. The point of sale needs to talk to your e-commerce platform. Your e-commerce platform needs to talk to your point of sale, talk to your marketing platform. And if you have other companies like data analytics companies and SEO companies that all speaking together, it's all funneling down into a revenue driving type organization. So that's definitely one of the first things that I like to say when I'm talking to somebody. Secondly, it's important to choose platforms that are adaptable within the space for sure. The regulations are constantly shifting and changing. They change all the time. And in new markets, they change even quicker. In my experience in new markets, I see regulations shift anywhere from every 3 to 6 months. The advertising regulations, marketing regulations, third-party technology regulations, all different kinds of things fluctuate all the time. So you need to make sure the providers you're working with can ebb and flow with that change.
Can I ask you a really dumb question?
Please.
All right, and anybody can take this. Tyler, you're on deck, so you get another minute to prepare for your, but when you say tech stack,
Yeah.
I should probably know what that means because I'm a millennial, but I don't think I actually do. What is tech stack?
Tech stack is purely all of the technology services that you need to make your business function. So that means the point of sale manages the retail portion of what you do. That also marries in with e-commerce to help out with your online ordering, marries into data analytics to help out with that, SEO to drive traffic towards the website. It also, means things like if you're a vertically integrated business, if you're going to have a front to back operation, you need systems that talk across all of those different veins. And you don't want to separate any part of your business from a technology standpoint.
And I take that one step further because I kind of had a similar question, Joe. Are you saying text or tech?
Tech, sorry.
I've heard it both ways. So I'm like, I think it's a tech.
Probably.
And I heard text.
Yeah,
so I'm like, I wanted to clarify.
Technology stack, yeah.
That's what I assumed. I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And I think one other major point on the tech stack is how they all communicate each other, technically, but having teams that are cannabis focused that work with each other. For instance, Headset, Spring Big, and Range. Everything's always changing in cannabis and there's always things moving. The great thing when you have a great tech stack in place is that the actual team members of these companies, we're always communicating with each other. So it makes it really easy for the end user, the retailer, the brand, whatever, to have a really successful campaign with all of the tech stack because we're always talking to each other.
Yeah. Let's
face it, there's always bumps in the road in a business and the business journey. But when you have that customer service and people that understand each other's products, lessens the turbulence during that ride, which I think a lot of people really appreciate. I always get comments on that, like, wow, you guys communicate really quickly and really fast. And that's another big thing is, are my teams talking to each other? Because everyone has different, specialties and niches. We don't all do everything. We just focus what we're good at. And I think that's a big pivotal thing as you're talking to people. That's a big thing to look out for.
You definitely also, I always kind of say, like the niches in cannabis for technology are specific for a reason. An all-in-one solution right now that's fully functional doesn't really currently exist. And I don't know necessarily the industry is so new that it shouldn't exist. Everyone should stay kind of in their space, but work as a cohesive unit. So we're able to support you guys better on an individual business basis because we support each other as partner companies. We are constantly in communication. We ebb and flow with the regulations. We're also constantly building out more products to make our technology sync better with each other. So having kind of that support system behind the technology aspect of your business just gives you less to worry about when it comes to to that stuff.
All right, Tyler, You got
Yeah,
like 2.5 minutes out of that.
Really got to stew on what I wanted to say. Funny, all I'm going to start out with is echo both what Tyler and Emily said. I think what really stuck out to me is something Emily said around choosing a cannabis specific technology and tech stack. Totally agreed that you could see it in the cohesion with the three of us and our companies together. Things are ever changing. We all started in our own separate swim lanes, but it's cool that we're actually coming together. And I guess I'm speaking to, headset product development specifically, but I know it applies to Range and Spring Big's product development. Like, we are actively thinking about and innovating solutions that work well with Spring Big and Range, knowing that we are part of this tech stack of multiple operators. So it's not just like a single-minded product development lifecycle now. It's turned into this like vast, hey, how do I actually make sure this product is going to work well with whatever Spring Big and Range have on deck or currently have in place. So I digress. I think that was just well said from both of you. Back to the question around new applicants and how headset helps. I mean, I think the cool part about the space headset plays in with data is that you can really leverage data with about any type of activity you're trying to do. I think, that's obviously vague and broad, but I'll try to synthesize it down to a specific like retailer operation, someone that's looking to open up doors. We have specific products for specific niches, but I think the highest level example is just people come to us, retailers that is really trying to understand, like, how do I build out my business plan and how can I best forecast for what I should expect if I open up a dispensary, right? That ranges from estimating the number of transactions and the sales volume that you can anticipate in the given market that you're looking to open in. Really need to understand the amount of inventory. I think that's a huge part of it as well. How much inventory you need to have on hand so you're actually prepared for those that come into your door. That also goes into pricing level decisions about how you should price your product. And am I priced relative to the market or a similar market around me? And I think discounting as well, which I think we'll get a lot into today, potentially, as that really ties well with what we do with Spring Big on the actual promotional front. I hope that answered your question.
Right.
I know
That was very good. Tyler, and I'm going to be, this is kind of coming from left field here, but we've got, in addition, obviously we're speaking a lot of retail today, but, similar question with respect, any different guidance that you have with respect to, cultivators, processors, distributors, folks more on the supply chain. Do you have any different advice or, I just, again, I know there's a lot of retail focus here today, but just, seeing what, any additional thoughts on that?
Totally. I would say the advice, maybe the nuanced example I gave doesn't necessarily apply, but I'd say where data comes in, it applies across the board, right? Like leveraging existing markets and understanding which markets that, currently are rec and that turn the corner, how they started, how they're currently going, and where ultimately the market will progress into, I think is insanely valuable, especially as you put together your application package, right? And need to tee it up for future success, as you alluded to, right? It's not just about, hey, can I open up my doors and breathe from the start? It's actually, hey, can I have long-term success? Because that's what the application process is really looking into. Does that help answer the question? I think it's like ultimately similar level of analysis, just potentially different data that you're using to make those.
Absolutely. And obviously there's that data because obviously New York State isn't the first market to legalize cannabis. And check out Headset's resources on, like I said, there's a lot of studies done. There's a lot that we can learn from what we're seeing in other markets, good and bad, right?
Totally.
So, all right. Let's pretend for a second. Our application's in. We get the good news. You have your license. You got to start building your business. Range has built this beautiful, beautiful website for you. How are we driving traffic to it? And I know you may have answered this before, but let's go through the life cycle.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna back you up one step though.
Please do.
So
Keep me in line.
there's a really cool thing that Spring Big, Headset, and Range has, and that's the greenhouse program. So obviously you get awarded this license and you're all excited. You want to go sell as much as you possibly can, but there's a lot of things to do before you can open up those doors. So I think we'll start with step one before the doors are open. Like, what do you do? And then after that, we'll bring it back to me and go step two of when the doors are finally open and we can rev it all up. So what we've all came together with and thought that would be great for retailers is the greenhouse program. And what that is on Range's aspect is, why not build a landing page? Hey, ABC dispensary coming soon, a nice one pager. Maybe there's a job application form and just a little bit about their information. But it's really nice because we don't want to start driving traffic to the dispensary because it's not open. People are going to go there, the doors will be locked, and that's a waste of money. So what we did, and I'm throw this over to Emily a second, is that we put on these landing pages like a VIP loyalty program sign up for people to start.
Yeah.
Gonna
Okay.
hand it over to you.
Right. There you go. Yeah. So one of the major things that we do at Spring Big is help you manage your loyalty programs. And what's unique about our platform is we actually put the engagement in the hands of your customers. And I can get into that in a little bit from like a feature perspective. But basically how we piggyback off, we all three of our companies saw that there was a deficit in this space for early retailers getting their marketing plans aligned and all of this stuff. So we came together and came up with a few products. So on the Spring Big side, what we do is we integrate within, like, we'll put our secure join form. Everything begins and ends with a secure join form. If you're going to market to people in any capacity, text message marketing, email marketing, what have you, they have to go through a Telephone Consumer Protection Act secure join form. So what we do is we put our join form up on their landing pages. So we help start, and with the SEO work, we help start driving traffic towards the join form, which helps you start sourcing a customer base before you're even open. So you're not starting from scratch. It just gives you a little bit of a leg up. Some of the other features that we do specifically for early retailers are we take a look at the brands. So we have an entire co-marketing brands marketplace on our platform as well, which is completely unique to Spring Big. So we take a look at the brands and vendors that you guys want to work with. And in turn, as vendors or brands, we work with you as well on the flip side. And we're able to then start co-marketing initiatives, get them set up in place before you guys even open your door. So we're already going to have you collaborating with the vendors that you want to work with from a marketing standpoint before you're even open and getting that in place. The other thing that we do is we give you access for from the first day your doors open, we give you access to our referral program and reputation management program. So kind of picture yourself day one opening your store and you have a referral program in place. That's going to bulk out that existing customer base immediately, right away. And then tracking that customer feedback right from when you open the doors as well, from a standpoint of, like, how is the customer experience right away? Oh, we need to tweak this, and this, and taking those KPIs and just, bettering the retail experience as a result. And now I'll flip it over to Tyler.
Yeah, thank you. And being totally candid, like, I don't know if Headset's participation in this specific program is necessarily marketing specific. That's not to say it's not valuable, right? Like, it kind of is like along the lines of what I alluded to before around Headset store trends, right? What you can expect in preparation for your store to be open. I think I don't want to steal thunder going into the next question and the next phase of the business around current business operations, but I really do see that's where the most synergy comes with Range and Spring Big and Headset, right? Where we're actually doing marketing activities, pulling these marketing levers, and Headset's ability to track the success and or failure. I guess you have to put that out there as an option, right? But just learn from it, right? And create this cycle of, hey, you're actually pulling these levers and then understanding and evaluating, hey, was it the right lever to pull, or should I figure out a different one?
And then bring it back to when the store finally opens. So in that process, we had that landing page up, driving traffic there, getting people signed up to the Spring Big loyalty program. But in the meantime, we're going to be working with you to build that whole website. Okay. And there's a lot that goes onto that, and that you're going to need assets you're going to need that you're going to get at different times. And what I mean by that is we can start building websites, which we do, 8 months, 6 months before the doors are even open. But, if you've been on a dispensary website, they have a menu on there, right? Like an iHeart chain or a Dutchie menu. We're going to have to start communicating with them for a few weeks before opening to get that plugged into the website. Spring Big, to get the full loyalty program, we're going to need to get those API codes, put them on the website. There's other programmatic companies out there installing pixels. So we'll have this whole base set up, and then a few weeks out before the doors are open, that's the beauty of communicating with these other companies. They just send it right over, snap of a finger, as Mark would say. The website's created and launched. And once the doors are open, we start that SEO. We get people requesting directions, going into the stores, and that's where we can really track the data and analytics of what's my return on investment? How many online orders am I getting from organic search? How many people are coming into my store? And that's the power of range of what we do when the doors are finally open.
One thing I want to point out this is not to my people in person. If you are joining us virtually, there is a Q&A function. If you have questions, throw it in there. I will monitor and send them off to our awesome panelists as I see fit. And if you're in the audience, because I don't want you guys to feel left out, if you want to raise your hand, like we're in school.
Classroom style.
Yeah, I'll remember it. You don't have to keep it up. But let's just make sure this is interactive. Thank you, Lauren Lewis, for jumping in when you did.
Thanks. Anytime. Glad to help.
So the legal, because we are a law firm and we do need to kind of talk legal. Sorry, guys. I know this is the boring section of the presentation. New York State has released preliminary adult use marketing and advertising. They call them prohibitions. So the no-nos of marketing and advertising. There's been, obviously, as with any regs that OCM and CCB have pushed forward, there's been significant outcry, I think is the best way to talk about it. There's obviously been support, but there's also been, criticism, constructive criticism. That's the whole point of public comment period. If you are going to be operating a brand in this space, whether you're conditionally licensed processor, conditional cultivator who's going to be selling eighths, pre-rolls, et cetera, within the scope of your license, or someone who's going to be operating a dispensary, take a look at those because there's 24 different prohibitions and they are very restrictive to the point where you may have awesome service providers like these guys in the greenhouse program they're going forward, but the ability to use something like that, you're going to have to call somebody like me to make sure that that's actually allowed and that the website that is being built for you is actually, you've got the right, you have the necessary protections to make sure that we're within the confines of the laws and the regulations. Obviously, we need the, Emily, you have the correct, with the age verification. What do you call it? There's a special name for it.
Age gate.
Yeah, the age gate.
The age gate.
Yeah.
So we're not letting 16-year-olds come in and look at your product offering or your dispensary offerings. We have disclaimers that we do, and this applies both to the hemp industry as well as the adult use market, because we'll talk about that a little bit further down the road. But that compliance piece is really important because obviously the last thing you want is an audit. So we won't use that word. All right, we're rolling through. Let's talk about really bringing it home. Okay, we've got Tom Snyder, yes, we will absolutely get contact info, and Tess, we can address that in a little bit. All right, we've built it. If you build it, they will come. They have come. How do we take our emerging industry cannabis business and take it to the next level? Tyler.
Yeah, I'll start. So, especially New York, think of New York. I mean, you got like the botanists, MedMen. Obviously, they have some budgets and they're all doing marketing. But we got to come in and we got to show up in front of them. And I can tell you, we've had many conversations with large MSOs that have lots of money. And when we really look at their tech stack and what they're doing, it's all over the place. So the opportunity to go out there and beat them is definitely there on the SEO side of things. And especially like locally, Buffalo is a good example. Like I type in dispensaries in Buffalo, New York right now, the botanists and MedMen will show up. But there's a huge opportunity for the dispensaries in Buffalo to outrank them. It's going to take some time, but that's a low hanging fruit. If someone's, coming into Buffalo and typing and your dispensary is ranking over MedMen and the botanists, you're doing a pretty good job. So that's one thing, is getting ahead of the competition, right? And starting now, there's not too much competition. And think of New York City. the one trade center, that is literally the pivotal of the New York skyline. And who knows if something is going to be built taller than that. And that's what we're trying to build in the digital landscape. We want that skyscraper that no one can, outpace. And just doing the monthly SEO over and over again, you just keep building and building, where you think of it as a race, pedal to the metal. Cars are never going to be able to pass you because you've just done so much great work to get you where you are. And what it comes down to is just really dominating, all those keywords that are, the $1 million keywords, dispensary near me, et cetera. And then also making sure that your website is optimized and it's really easy to use. When partners like Spring Big on there, there's so many opportunities to get them in there, because really range marketing, top of funnel, we're going to build that top of funnel. You always want to have more people coming in, but Spring Big, what we do a really good job with is bringing them back. How do we get them back in the door? How do we get those deals in? That's where Spring Big comes into play, and having those call to actions on the websites. This is how you keep this, bringing repeat customers and getting more in. So I think just always putting more and more effort into the SEO and your website is going to, make you outrank your competition. At the end of the day, outrank your competition and you're going to get more people to your store. I think I just looked at some Google analytic data, the map pack, if you guys are familiar, like if you type in Google, it'll show up a map. The first position gets about 50% of the clicks. The second position gets about 25. The third's like 15. And then under that, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4%. When you got millions of people, searching for these search terms, you want to be in the top 3. You're going to get a lot of low hanging fruit. So I think that's what you can really do to hit home and just constantly do it and just keep, having good conversations with your SEO analyst and see what's working and not working. So
I know you set up Emily really nice, but I'm going to just jump in before we do that, because I have to ruin, obviously, the flow of things like I tend to do. That's going to work beyond the dispensary level as well, right? I think of cultivators trying to get their name out there with respect to processors, right? How am I a notable brand in Western New York? We talk, obviously, for folks who are in the room, there's severe brand loyalty to Buffalo, almost to a fault, whether it's because of our football team or bad weather or anything else, or very, very good food. But, I think I talk to especially Western New York focused brands on, Buffalo people, Western New York people. Sam is here from Rochester, and Kevin, obviously, in Batavia. I don't want to make anybody feel excluded, and everybody online. But, being able to develop that brand here, and if it's, Buffalo cannabis cultivator, Buffalo processor, or Western New York, Rochester, Batavia, et cetera. I think that, would that work? Is that something that you would help these, a cultivator, a processor, a distributor? Could you build that as well? Is that SEO going to work?
yeah, there's two things to go on that. One, what we're seeing a lot pivoting in the cannabis industry, especially with the retailers, is a lot more brand search terms. Actually, Emily and I had a bunch of conversations about this, but Wana brands out in Massachusetts, right? Like Wana gummies. Right? If I'm in, Dorchester, Massachusetts, and typing in Wana gummies near me, and a dispensary holds that brand, and that dispensary is doing product SEO, they're going to show up, which is nice too. And now on the brand side of things and cultivation, we don't put our hands too much in the cookie jar there, but there's opportunities like a brand having a really nice website. When you go on there and you type in, Empire, Hempco, and you go onto the website and you see the locations that they're located in, and you can see across the state, oh, I'm in, Syracuse. I'm going to go to Syracuse dispensary and I'm going to go pick up my favorite Empire Hempco product. That's another thing as well. The brand on the SEO side of things of brands, when you're a brand, you're competing, just not hyper local, you're competing, on the state side, but also in Google's eyes, it's national. And I understand there's rules and regulations, but there's millions of brands out there. So it's really tough. So it's really how, coming up with that strategic plan, having open, honest conversations with people that have been through the industry and know it does and doesn't work. Cause I'm not ever afraid to say, I can't work with you because, XYZ reason. But I think as you're out there, cultivator brand on the marketing side of things, that's not my wheelhouse, but make sure when you're talking to people that they're just giving you full transparency, because I will say there's people out there that will take your money and say we can deliver on all these great things, and you want to have open dialogue. So I think that's the best advice I can give on that side of things.
I killed the transition to Emily, so
Yeah.
if you're
Okay,
able,
restart it?
if you're able to smoothly
I'll
go
do
into
my
it, or I
best.
can have, we can rewind.
I'll
Tyler.
do my best. No, it's okay. Kind of just to bring it back to the, okay, we're open now, here we are. From a Spring Big standpoint, there are several different things that we do. And I think what's unique about our platform is how adaptable it is. And it needs to be that way because every market is different. And so we do a couple different things. On the loyalty program side, like we were talking about customer retention and loyalty programs. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we put the loyalty program physically in the hands of your consumers, of the people who are coming into your store. We do these through a couple different kinds of applications. So basically think about it like a one-stop shop app for your, brand or retail dispensary. So they'll have full access to what your loyalty program looks like on that app. They'll be able to track their spending with you, see your full rewards offerings right there, right from their smartphone. Additionally, we'll have like their customer profile section, which through all the integrations, if they ever update any information, it pulls through all the systems, which is nice, just so you don't have to like constantly update stuff in the store. Additionally, our e-commerce integration is right on each application as well. So they'll have full access to your menu right from that application on the phone. They don't have to go to your website. They don't have to go outside that application at all, which is really nice. Additionally, we have other features, and through those loyalty components, we're able to show you all of the data as well that's associated. So each customer profile has all of their purchases tied to it, and our platform has many different filtering options to be able to allow you to select really granular groups of people in order to send the most relevant information as possible. I don't know about you guys, but I get 100 spam emails a day, and I don't look at any of them. So we need to be able to be really targeted with the information that we're sending out. Additionally, and I do want to mention this again, on the brand side of things, we have a brands marketplace. So that's a space where it's physically in our backend platform. It's a space where we bring retailers and brands together. So we'll use, we've been talking about Wana. We'll use Wana as an example again. If you guys work with Wana as a brand, what you can do in the back end of our platform is go back there and request for them to sponsor your campaign. That means that they're going to pay for the cost of that campaign for you as a retailer and be able to market directly to your consumers. Whole reason we did that is we saw there was this massive disparity in marketing between the retailers and the brands. They weren't working together. And it works so much more cohesively when they do. The brands are the best ambassadors of their own products. They've grown them. They've had it since day one. They understand how they work. And you as the retailers have direct access to the consumer. So by doing it together, we have some data numbers I could throw out at you. I think we saw the average basket size increase by like 58%. Just by working together. And to flip it on for the brand side of the things for this conversation as well, if you're a brand and you come on our brands marketplace, basically you buy a package that allows a certain amount of like text credits or email credits or something like that. And any retailer that approaches you, you decide whether or not you want to work with them and sponsor, their campaigns in order to push your product. So by doing it all together, by looping in the retailers and brands together, and then also really engaging with your customer base from a loyalty program standpoint, we've seen a lot of really good success with that, doing it that way. So.
And Tyler, before we get to you, I'd like to say that Emily also says data, so I think you're in good shape. And speaking of data, I feel like this is a good time for you to pop in.
Yeah, appreciate it. And Emily, I think what you said is super relevant to what I wanted to follow up with. I guess like going back to the question about like how do you grow it now that it's operating. I'll go back to the point of just, you're kind of like rinse and repeat, right? It's understanding the levers that worked and pulling them and understanding what didn't work and figuring out an alternative strategy. I'll say on the Spring Big front, I think it pertains to what Emily just said, specifically around messaging, right? Spring Big does have the capability to target your messaging, right? So you don't get a spam message that doesn't pertain to you, that doesn't entice you to come back in the store or whatnot. I think we've done a good job working together of just using the headset data, right? Understanding, hey, this is the type of customer that comes into your store. It's based off of recency, frequency, monetary value, right? Like we're able to pinpoint and create segments of these customers to say, hey, here's a subset of your super loyal customers. These are customers that come in all the time, spend money that you really don't want to lose. Here are here's the can't lose segment, those that come in sometimes, but you really want to entice them to be loyal customers, whatever it may be, right? Spring Big and Headset in this vein are working together to make sure that those customers are getting a specific message that pertains to what segment they fit in, right? So you can see how that's kind of like going into the rinse and repeat, pull lever type of message, where that's truthfully what you need to do to continue to grow your business. I think pertaining to the brand side of things too, I think we have a similar relationship with Spring Big on the brand side. The beauty of data, we believe, is that there's so much power in sharing it and having visibility. It goes into collaboration, I think, is a main theme as to how you're really going to grow. Not only how we're talking about collaboration on the tech side, but just collaboration as you're an operator. Specifically from brand to retailer, like you guys are reliant on one another, even though at certain times I'm sure it feels like, you might be butting heads. Same goes in any space. You both are reliant on each other, right? Brands are reliant on the retailers to ultimately sell the product. And Headset has a specific product called Bridge that actually, pun intended, I guess, bridges the gap between retailer information and brand information, right? So it really just allows brands to see real-time inventory levels on their retail partner shelves. And I think that's super relevant just to understand, hey, when you're a retailer, if you're out of stock of a product, like that's lost revenue on the line. If you're overstocked on a specific product, maybe you should think about running a promotion on it, or it's just locked up, tied up cash that's sitting on your shelves. You need to do something about it. And I think sharing those insights with the brands is really how you fuel like a collaborative relationship. And I could talk ad nauseum as to how you can leverage the Spring Big brands platform with that level of data to really run the most effective campaign, brand driven campaign that the retailer ultimately sends to their clientele. But yeah, I think that's, Emily, I'm just echoing and further elaborating on what you mentioned, that really like that collaboration with all folks in the supply chain is probably one of the key points as to how you're going to grow your business.
And it sounds interesting too, just to piggyback off of your point, this is how you build your customer life cycle. Using all of these different data points is how you target and identify from day one how the flow of your business is going to work. And you need platforms that are adaptable to that kind of change, because stuff is going to change. I mean, right now we're kind of in a space where the economy is not so good. And as a result, cannabis sales are down right now. So how do you combat that in newer markets or established markets? It's through these different techniques to influence the customer life cycle at all times. We want to keep track of everybody that comes within the store, but to Tyler's point, identifying those key groups that either need a little bit more work to maintain loyalty or have loyalty and we don't want to lose them is absolutely invaluable.
Amen too. And Tyler Shaw, I didn't want to quarter you and make you feel left out. I just was relevant to what Emily said on the Spring Big front. I think, I mean, it perfectly applies to what you're doing at Range too, right?
Yes,
it's static SEO. It's not a static SEO strategy that you just one and done place and hope it works. And if it doesn't, throw your hands up, so be it, right? It's the cyclical nature that still applies there. Hey,
yes.
What worked? Didn't work potentially, and how can we look at historical performance and real-time performance to actually inform what you guys do to change the strategy or lean into what is working type of thing.
Tyler, forgive me, does Headset have data on the amount of customers that went through the door? I know we can't track it organically, request for directions, but I know that's been thrown around before and I don't know exactly the answer, but can you guys track that or no? See how much store traffic people went in the store? Do you have that data?
I'm going to give a convoluted answer. Hopefully this works to answer your question. We integrate with the point of sale, right? So
Gotcha.
we're only seeing if a transaction transpires. Yep. We log that as a customer made the transaction. So if you walk in, window shop, don't buy anything, we're not necessarily tracking that, as it doesn't flow through quote unquote the metaphorical cash register.
Yeah, because people always ask, well, you got me 12,000 requests for directions this month. How many people actually came in and bought? And that's where, SEO, we use conservative numbers. So that's something that hopefully maybe we can change one day in the industry. It would be nice.
I have to do something kind of boring and talk about compliance.
I wish it was boring.
It's so very important.
It's not.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Well said. I mean, we also have an accountant in the room, and you know, we are in a law firm, so we got to touch on it briefly. But I'm gonna let Emily talk about it first because she actually prompted. It wasn't me this time, everybody. Okay, it will be from now on at the many more series. But Emily, talk a little bit about the compliance piece that you see, and then I am going to jump in after that because I've been pretty quiet today, which is pretty good for me.
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's two different veins in which compliance relates to like what we do at Spring Big directly. There's the vein of overall compliance from a monitoring standpoint when it comes to marketing. So in text marketing in cannabis, I mean, it's kind of funny because the regulations as they stand are you can't send any cannabis content in an initial text message at all, or you're going to get in trouble for it. So what we do is we actually send clean pre-optimized notification messages that host a browser link that contain all of the cannabis content. By protecting it behind a link that way, we build them all ourselves. By protecting it behind a link that way, we're able to give you full freedom in what you say. And also it enhances deliverability because we're not doing anything wrong on the front end of the message. The governing system in text marketing for cannabis is called 10DLC. It's a text monitoring system that's utilized by the carriers and aggregators to screen for any and all cannabis content in mass messaging. If you are found non-compliant or if you are found to be mass marketing cannabis content, that is at very least a $10,000 fine. And the company, your provider is not responsible for it. You guys are going to be responsible for it. So we take that very seriously. We are considered 10DLC compliant because of our process. But it just goes to show you, it's one of those things that you don't necessarily think about. Yes, I want to have a marketing plan in place. Yes, I want to have outreach, but what if there was a system literally looking for all of the content that I'm actually trying to send out? So I think it's really important to pay attention to having a compliant provider. That being said, we also hold compliance accreditations, like we hold HIPAA compliance. We are the only text marketing cannabis company in cannabis that holds HIPAA compliance. Why? Because it covers that bracket of the industry. Additionally, we hold like SOC 2 compliance and TCPA compliance. Those are just things we need in order to operate within the space. But it's so very important to choose a provider who is compliant like that, so you don't have to worry about ever putting yourself at risk by, just marketing the way that you want to. I think the second thing that's really important, and I think I've said it a few times now, but I'll say it again, is having a platform that is adaptable, because state by state by state, like I said, your regulations are going to change every few months, especially in a new market. For example, last year in the state of Missouri, all of us, that's a medical only state, all of a sudden they banned the use of third-party marketing technology platforms out of nowhere. They just decided it wasn't allowed anymore. Nope, can't do it. So what we did is we were like, okay, no worries. So we just suspended all of our accounts in that state. And, sure enough, 4 months later, the legislation overturned and we turned everybody back on again. So it's important we're not going to hold you hostage. Like, it's important to work with a provider who understands that things fluctuate. And additionally, when it comes to like the physical loyalty and marketing components as well, in my state, so I'm from Boston, Mass. I work remotely for Spring Big. We're based in Boca. There's a lot of rules in Massachusetts about what loyalty programs can be in the adult use space. Their traditional loyalty programs aren't allowed. So what do we do at Spring Big? We have an adaptable platform. So if you guys build out something like an experience-based loyalty program, we can reflect that in our physical product. And I think it's really important to have a technology provider that can remain, kind of fluctuating in the space with you as a result. So that's just kind of high level, a couple things to keep.
Yeah, high level, a couple things. High level, a couple things under federal law.
Under federal.
Right. So then in addition to that, you have to talk to people like me to make sure that whatever you're doing is compliant under both the MRTA as well as the regulations that are going to change. If you don't like the regulations, put your public comments in as soon as you can.
Run your loyalty programs by your lawyers, please.
And your websites.
Please, at your websites and everything
you put out there. Yeah. Well, our goal is to keep everyone out of trouble.
Exactly.
I want to get to the question before I do that. And if we go 5 minutes over, headset, Tyler, I know you've got a job. Can I get 5 more minutes from you if we go over for 5 minutes?
Certainly.
All right, good deal. Last, final thoughts from you guys. Tyler Shaw, I'm gonna start with you. Anything, I mean, whether it's reiteration of something we've covered today or advice on something that you've seen from a more mature market. I mean, New Jersey, I think, is a great example of someone they've hit the gas a little bit quicker than we have, but their rollouts seems to be just as slow as ours as we just have a conditional market and they're kind of creeping forward with their permanent market, for lack of a better term. But I don't mean to pigeonhole you, but I know that's something you talked about. So
Yeah.
the world's your oyster, have at it.
Great. No, a couple things. And first off, being at Lippis and compliance, we talk to, attorneys, what's right, what can we do, what can we not do in the state like Massachusetts. I believe you can't advertise daily deals on the website right now, or you'll get in trouble. So having that information from, an attorney from the dispensary telling us that's great, because we're going to keep those dispensaries out of trouble. ADA compliant, making sure that your website's up to par, all that information that the attorneys can give us is great. I mean, we communicate with attorneys, you could do this, you could do that, and state by state. So it's really pivotal to having those communications with the attorneys and the compliance to make sure, we don't run into fines or get sued. You do not want that. And then overall, to be most successful, I say it all the time, just have open, honest, set expectations with your partners that you're working with. I think the biggest thing in cannabis is setting the correct expectations. And if you do that, you should be able to have a pretty good, pretty successful journey in the business, and hopefully sell it and sit on the beach one day and drink a cocktail, or sell it to one of those big MSOs. So I think setting the correct expectations is what I've learned the most over the years in cannabis. Emily, so I got.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think just to echo a few more points that we talked about before, the compliance aspect is really important. Adaptability is really important. And getting your plan in place is also really important. That isn't to say that we don't also, as 3 different companies, help people in really established markets as well. We do all the time. We bring people on board with that, all the time, and are able to service those industries as well. But I think speaking in a newer market, it's important to, like we just said, we talked a lot in the beginning about partnerships, and the fact that we 3 companies, along with other companies that we all respectively work with, are partners. And if you have a support system from a technology aspect, which sounds kind of silly because you're like, oh, I'm opening a dispensary, I'm really excited about it. Like, you have a whole vision in your head. You don't really think about being needed to be supported by technical providers in that traditional sense. And I think that's where we try and really educate people in early markets about, because it's one less thing you have to worry about. You open those dispensary doors, and I promise you, as profitable as you are going to be, 100 things are going to go wrong in the first, 6 months. So having that adaptability is really key. Absolutely.
Really, we're done.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Tyler, bring it home.
Absolutely. I like what Tyler said of setting expectations. I could make a headset specific plug, but I just think generically speaking, there's a lot of good literature and content out there. You could certainly go to the headset website to get some free blog posts, industry reports, speaking to other markets and how they've matured, their process from all the way from opening to where they are now, no matter what market it is. Get an interesting lens on the federally legal Canadian markets as well. But I say all this just to say that, like, educating yourself and being prepared goes such a long way. There is a lot of information out there. It's not all great. And I think ultimately, to Emily's point, like, relying on these technology partners out there and making sure you have the correct and reliable technology in the space is vitally important. Ultimately, you're ideally leveraging the technology to better your business and optimize it. It's worst case scenario when it becomes a roadblock and becomes a bottleneck in what you want to do, even if it's not directly pertaining to technology. So I'll leave it at that.
Great. And we've spoken about this. Everybody who's heard me speak over the past 18 months or more, there's a lot that goes into this, right? And if you're going into this process with your eyes closed and not trying to I mean, the reason why we have these presentations, right, is to identify the blind spots that you have. We always joke about, and this is the third time I've made this joke, but I have to make it every single time. We always talk about the cost of a fence, the cost of a camera. Security, if you're not thinking security, if you're not thinking staffing, if you're not thinking zoning, you're not thinking environmental, you're not thinking tech, you're not thinking social equity, which we're going to talk about, you're not thinking about protecting your IP, you need to start thinking about it immediately. And if you haven't, you're probably behind. The nice part is we don't have permanent regulations yet, so there's time to catch up, but get rolling on that stuff as soon as you possibly can. And I know that's more of an overall point, but I think it kind of goes to what you guys were saying here. It's never too early, especially if you want to make an impact in the space. That's what we're seeing. That's what we seem to see in more mature markets and the lessons learned from when those mature markets were emerging markets. So thank you, everybody. I've got 4 questions in the Q&A. Let's bang these out, and then we'll get to networking, and we'll let Tyler go. All righty.
Currently have a checklist of potential use consumers that operators can use. So we,
Hold on, let me read it because I realized I think we're the only ones. So directed to Spring Big. Do you currently have a text list of New York adult use consumers that operators can use?
absolutely not. That would be giving away people's personal information.
Okay. Tom, we will absolutely include the contact info. We send an email with the link to this awesome video so you guys can watch it before you go to sleep. Subconscious takes it all in. We run these amazing. Mike just shook me off. He's like, oh, don't fall asleep listening to our presentations. Unbelievable. All right, Nikki Lawley. Hey, Nikki. How much should a business, if you guys, I think this is to everybody, how much should a business allocate for website and marketing costs? I know that's, I mean, you can go a lot of different ways, but if you maybe speak to your own platforms, would that work?
Yeah. I think for a website, anywhere ballpark from $5,000 to $20,000, depending on what you want, all the bells and whistles. And then for the monthly SEO, anywhere from, it depends how many locations and everything, but it's a ballpark anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 a month. So what, $65,000 a year, right around there.
Yeah.
Just did some quick math in my head. So
I can't do quick math, so I'm not gonna do full yearly prices for you, but I can explain it a little bit. With things like our early retailer program, it's the most cost-effective way to get started with us. It's literally $100 a month. Whole reason we did that is you guys have so many costs just to open the business. We don't want to add another layer. For established people who come to us, we have a la carte pricing. So we really go off of people's customer list size. We need to know how big you are, and our packages range everywhere from, like, you can use the full suite of Spring Big for about $650 a month up to enterprise level where people are spending, $15,000 a month on our product. So it does fluctuate, but we did it that way on purpose because we want to be able to, we also bump people up and down packages. So we're going to grow with you if times are tough. We'll be a little bit more conservative. So we don't want to ever give people more than they could use or less than they need.
And then there's a specific question, Tyler. I think it's just specific to headset. Obviously you have a lot of different products, but if you could ballpark for us.
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll speak to the main two. On the retailer level, we have a freemium premium model. So actually at baseline, the product is free to use. It's meant to plug into your point of sale and be a supplementary analytical product to better understand and organize the data set. It is your data set that you're producing, right? So it's feeding back your data set in a different manner. In terms of the market level insights data, which I'm assuming the question pertained to that level of data, I think we just dumbed it down recently in a good way, led by our head of sales to spearhead this concise effort of $1,000 a category per market. So what that really means is, hey, you want California level information, you want to understand pre-rolls and how they're performing in the California market. That's going to be $1,000 per month. And of course, it scales as you add more categories and more markets, and there's bundled deals, but I think that's the easiest way to think about it.
Good. And with that, we'll call it. Thanks so much, Tyler. Thanks for being virtually. Oh, hold on.
It's for Emily.
Yes.
The Spring Bridge integration work, we're talking with the transportation components, including the transportation companies with their GPS needs, providers, et cetera. As you said, it's all integrated.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. So not directly, so it depends on what you mean by transportation, because we work with, we facilitate marketing for delivery operators.
Yes.
So yeah, so we definitely do. We facilitate a communication for delivery operators, notification messages, orders, stuff like that. We absolutely can service that side. I wasn't sure if you meant like the physical inventory transportation. I was like, we're not quite there yet, but yes, so it's not limited to retailers and brands. We work with all different kinds of businesses within the cannabis industry, delivery operators included.
Anybody else in the audience? Okay.
Forgot about it, bro.
Come on, guys, you gotta have fun.
Good? All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in online. Thanks to our panelists for being here
Thank you.
virtually and in person. We're
Appreciate
networking here on the 7th floor at 50 Fountain Plaza. Come hang out, and if you couldn't make it this time, come next time. Signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Tyler.
my goodness.